The #1 hottest book in the world, and I don't even think people should buy it right now.
Thank God that happened now. Said, I'm glad I took a shower today.
Comic fam, the alarm just went off. We had been filming for a couple seconds, but we're back. We had to sprint back to the table because one of the hottest books in the world, I don't think you should be buying right now.
Number 10 on the list, Incredible Hulk number 271. This is the second appearance, but first cover appearance of fan favorite Rocket Raccoon. We know the new Guardians of the Galaxy. This was absolutely going to be on the list. And at number 10, it's a fitting place. We are seeing $215 average sales and a recent high sale of a CGC 9.8 for $1,131.
Hit the like, slap the subscribe button. We're here every 7 days covering the most popular comic books in the world. Seeing this book on the list indeed does make sense. We've actually seen a lot of Rocket keys start to spike as we approach Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which is premiering this weekend, today, the day of this filming. So we're gonna leave the spoilers online, not bring them to the mic here because these sales took place prior to the release of the movie. I think this book shooting up much more than it has is going to be completely dependent on whether or not he even lives to see the end of the movie.
That's a good point. The movie's out right now, so if any of you have seen this, keep your mouth shut. Leave the comments like spoiler-free, Tom and myself, and I think Russ. I don't think any of us are making time to see this right away, so no spoilers.
Gem Mint and myself talked about this book just 3 weeks ago. Since then, there's been an increase of 39 copies added to the CGC census. The heights this book reached was last year, June, when it sold for $2,100. Now, regardless of if he does survive Guardians of the Galaxy 3, it took 5 years. Considering pandemic was in the middle of that, it just tells you how long sometimes it takes for these characters to come back to the screen. I think the lulls are just the beginning. There may be a better time to scoop this book up.
We've got a 133% increase in copies sold of this book compared to last week. And speaking of last week, we just got confirmation that actress Linda Cardellini is going to be doing the voice for Lila, who also first appears in this issue.
Now, this has been a long wait between these Marvel movie projects, but it seems like MCU is back on track, especially because we are only 5 weeks away from Secret Invasion coming out on Disney+.
I will say if you're looking for some Rocket keys to purchase, my favorite is Rocket Raccoon #1. First in his own solo series, cover art done by the king of negative space. My favorite artist of all time, Mike Mignola, at the list at number 9. Flash 792. This book came out a few months ago.
The first appearance of Wade. It is still a new comic book, and we don't quite know his full identity, and more is probably going to be revealed. But really, guys, at a $4 book with $5 highs, I really think you should be looking at the 1 in 25 Scott Collins variant, or maybe even the 1 in 50 foil variant, which is the same art as cover number A. Both of those are selling for almost nothing. We are seeing the 1 in 25s go in the $10 to $15 range. That's crazy low.
If there are incentive variants available and the cover A is starting to spike, consider this. You get your hands on a 1 in 25 for, let's say, double cover price of cover A. That means that 25 copies were created to that 1 in 25. Same with the 1 in 50, but with a higher number. And by the way, that's a foil version.
We're seeing a 300% increase in copies sold of this book week over week, and this is part of the 1 Minute War storyline in the Flash comic that just wrapped up. I'm not reading the Flash, so I had to do a little bit of research on this storyline, but it sounds cool, and I actually really want to read this run now. It's done by Jeremy Adams, who is wrapping up his run in a few issues here with issue 800.
He's actually going to be writing Green Lantern. How do you feel about that?
I'm excited. I had not heard of Jeremy Adams before figuring out that he was taking on Green Lantern, but I heard all of the love people gave him for this Flash run, and if people really love that Flash run, I'm excited, especially when you consider the last time you had a really, really popular Flash writer move over to Green Lantern. That was Jeff Johns, and look how that turned out.
Linda Park has been pregnant this entire run. We do get introduced to a speedster named Wade, who's kind of taken a play from the Marvel books with Spider-Boy. He exists. He's a new speedster people want to spec on, but his identity has yet to be revealed. With Jeremy wrapping this run up, it's likely we're going to get a reveal. Is he potentially Linda's son? Maybe from the future? Well, that's why people are specking on this book.
Yeah, Linda was pregnant during this whole 1 Minute War storyline, and she meets Wade, and she goes, that's Wally's uncle's name. That's a weird coincidence. And we also know during, based on solicitations for upcoming issues, that before Jeremy Adams' run ends in issue 800, she will give birth to this child. So it seems likely that that's probably going to end up being Wade.
Real question. Did Mark Bagley accidentally draw 2 left feet? At the list at number 8, Spider-Man number 8 from 2023. $8 average sales, high raw sales for $25. This book just came out because it's the second appearance of Spider-Boy. We were kind of just talking about this character. The foreshadowing!
Mark Bagley gets a lifetime pass from me because of
Same.
Ultimate Spider-Man, so he can draw 2 left feet. He could draw 4 hands for all I care, but it's a cool cover anyway, and there are a few other open-to-order variants for this issue as well. We didn't see any ratio variants, but who cares? Because this Rob Liefeld Secret Wars homage cover is the one that people really want.
So this was brand new this week, and it was a trifecta of amazing covers with Bagley and Liefeld, and rounding out with Humberto Ramos doing cover C. All amazing covers, and we were seeing 3-packs of these go in the $40 to $45 range. Even if there wasn't a ratio variant, this book is hot, and a lot of people were specking on it.
The success of Spider-Man number 7, First Spider-Boy, has trickled over to the second appearance because it's still selling so well. Seeing this book go for double cover price, members taking a little bit of a gamble probably for just high-graded copies at the $20 mark, it makes sense to me, but keep an eye out for the June 21st release of Edge of Spider-Verse number 3. We keep telling you this is being solicited as the origin story. I'm hoping we get a big reveal.
His origin story comes out in Edge of Spider-Verse number 3 in June, but here in this issue, in his second appearance, we get a glimpse of his powers. It doesn't appear that he can swing. It doesn't appear that he has web shooters. He's more like just hopping from building to building, and he's also got this weird kind of like psychic connection to Peter Parker, which is not creepy in any way, and I can't see potentially backfiring at all in the future if he potentially turns into like a Chasm sort of villain in the future.
Number 8 is going to second print already. They're making a 1 in 25 variant for that as well. Keep an eye out on this character. The comic community is too.
Most of you guys know I own a local comic shop, and I use the Key Collector app every single week when helping me to decide what to sell and what to look for. And we use it all the time because we have to bring it to the table like we have every single week for the last 5 years on the Trending 10 video.
Utilize code TOM101. This unlocks a free 2-week subscription of the app, and you get access to things like key alerts. Had you had access to the app, you would have known back in 2021 that Phyla-Vell was announced to be for sure in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which is why Phyla-Vell has been spiking since then. And that was a Key Collector inside scoop. It wasn't Deadline, it wasn't Variety, it was for a comic community. That's why this news broke.
That's why here at number 7, we're talking about Captain Marvel number 17 from 2004, the first appearance of Phyla-Vell, the first full appearance of Phyla-Vell.
Now, first off, you never know. Things could be left on the edit room floor. We do have the first appearance of Phyla-Vell seeing $65 average sales. A high 9.8 hit $299. The heights this book reached was $595 back in 2021. Steep drops, but we're going to find out this weekend if this spec was smart.
So Phyla-Vell is the clone daughter of Captain Marvel, and with the Marvels movie coming out, we are seeing a lot of speculation about her showing up. It's a 186% increase in copies sold this week. Okay, that's fine. We have a movie coming up, and we have a movie that's coming out this weekend. But what the heck is this next book doing on the list? Number 6, Infinity Gauntlet number 1? What?
Real story, at Vegas, going up to my room at the end of the night, and you know who walks right into that elevator? Jim freaking Starlin. Happened, and I got to talk to him for a little bit because he's been on the show before. I digress. No, I'm with you. What the heck is Infinity Gauntlet number 1 doing on this list?
Not only is Infinity Gauntlet number 1 on here, but Silver Surfer number 44 is also on the wider Key Collector Trending 20, which you do have to check out on the Key Collector app. There are 2 different Infinity Gauntlet related keys, specifically the Gauntlet itself, keys on the list. For what I can tell is no reason whatsoever.
We have $20 average sales, $300 for a CGC 9.8. Newsstands are hitting $552 for that same grade. This is a book that recently sold for like $150 on average and maybe just over $100 because Infinity Gauntlet's done, right? Endgame and Thanos. You guys all remember all that? I do think that this book will permanently have that status, however. At $100, everyone's going to buy it. So keeping it around that $150 seems safe. But seeing it trend 115% in copies sold tells us something is being spec'd upon. We do have Secret Wars. We do have incursions happening, different timelines, different characters, alt reality characters. Could we see a reprisal of the role of Thanos? Could we see the Infinity Gauntlet possibly needing to be utilized to stop whatever's coming from all the incursions?
Well, if you look back at like What If, we did see a bunch of different versions of Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet and the Infinity Stones. We saw that whole drawer full of Infinity Stones in that episode of Loki. We've also, like Tom mentioned, we got the incursions, which is all a whole big thing from Jonathan Hickman's New Avengers, Secret Wars era of Marvel Comics, where it dealt with universes colliding in on each other, which we did get a glimpse of in the last Doctor Strange movie. It seems like they are building towards that for Avengers Secret Wars. Perhaps we'll get the on-screen MCU Avengers trying to use an alternate universe Infinity Gauntlet to prevent the incursions, just like we saw Captain America do in the new Avengers run by Jonathan Hickman.
Could you imagine if we start to see Chris Evans rumors start to circulate? It's going to point to Infinity Gauntlet spec. It feels like it's like 2020 again, comic fam. Hit the like, slap the subscribe button, and let me take you over to number 5 with Transformers #1, a book at a 9.8 that you could have secured for under $1,000 for upwards of a decade. Well, this is selling for $160 average sales. Recent 9.8 puts it at $1,580, which right now seems like a great deal.
A 450% increase in copies sold this week on the release of the Transformers Rise of the Beast trailer. And this looks great, but honestly, that's you guys' Transformers, not mine. This book on the list is that the G1, the old school Transformers guys, they just love this book, and this price has been steadily creeping up. We even saw a newsstand sale for $2,913. People really want to pay for this book, and the fact that so many guys my age read the heck out of this book, securing these high-grade copies is tough.
Despite there being 587 copies graded at a 9.8, this is one of those books that those 9.8 collectors are keeping in their collection amongst all of their Transformer toys. This book is not easy to come by at conventions. I have looked.
Yeah, if you think about it, this book is a lot like, we've talked about Star Wars #1 a lot recently, and just like that book, I think it's reached a certain floor, and I don't think it's going to go below 1,000 anytime soon. If you look at this new Transformers movie, it comes out pretty soon. I'm pretty excited. I'm a giant Beast Wars kid. This is the 7th live-action Transformers movie, and yeah, you guys got enough. You guys had enough of the old Optimus Prime and Bumblebee stuff. There were 5 main Transformers movies, all directed by Michael Bay, and then they did the Bumblebee spin-off / prequel. This movie, Rise of the Beast, is going to be a sequel to the Bumblebee movie, so it's slightly removed. It's still a prequel to the original Transformers films. Hopefully it's a lot better than those, because I haven't watched one of these since like the second movie, but I am going to this one in the movie theater.
There's a 30-year nostalgia cycle that is absolutely at play here. 90s kids are going to be going to see this movie. I'm more hyped about Transformers than I have been in years. And take a look at Whatnot Publishing's brand new run called Astrobots. It's got some CRASHDOwn vibes in it.
It's a little like CRASHDOwn mixed with Transformers, not gonna lie. There's a whole repopulating of a planet element in here, except with robots, so thankfully it's not too close to CRASHDOwn, but it is similar.
Astrobots is gonna scratch the itch of a brand new Transformers-like narrative. Pick that up through Whatnot Publishing, and if you're looking for a Transformers homage, that Spider-Man booth has you covered. Shout out to JPG and Steve, the creators of Ninja Funk, man in the station over at that Spider-Man booth.
Speaking of shout-outs, we're moving on to number 4, and I want to give a special shout-out to writer Charles Soule, who is goldballing quite a bit of old retro Star Wars characters in his new Star Wars issue here on the list, Star Wars number 34.
We haven't discussed the term goldballing in a couple years. We should probably introduce that
Explain
term
what
to
that
all
means.
the new members, right?
Do we have the t-shirt still?
We don't, but we have to redesign it now because now I'm thinking about goldballing so much. Now, this was a term that I created brilliantly on the show that references the mutant named Goldballs. Back when Jonathan Hickman was writing House of X, this character became a pivotal plot point. The balls that he shoots out of his chest were eggs.
Yeah, back when Bendis wrote X-Men, he made this weird character named Goldballs who just shot out golden balls out of his body, and it didn't really do a whole lot. And then Jonathan Hickman pulled him out of continuity after years of being a joke and made it so that those gold balls were actually eggs that were used as part of the X-Men's resurrection protocol during the Hickman run. Very, very important character who used to be a joke. So now that is why we coined the term goldballing.
And don't get that confused with retconning. It's kind of part of the same tree of life, but is definitely a different term. Add it to the dictionary.
So now that we've explained all of that, back to number 4 on the list. If you've forgotten, it's Star Wars number 34. Brand new this week, $20 average sales, raw sales upwards of $75 because it's the first cameo appearance of Dr. Kuwata.
This was a character introduced in the Star Wars novels that was left to be, and then recently in the comic books, we're finding out narratives that take place between the original trilogies, specifically between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Basically, if you've seen Empire Strikes Back, you remember in that movie, Luke Skywalker had a blue lightsaber, but when he found out Darth Vader was his father, sorry, spoilers, I guess, for a bajillion-year-old movie, Darth Vader cuts off Luke's hand and his lightsaber both fall down that shaft on Cloud City, and they're just gone forever. Suddenly, Luke shows up in Return of the Jedi. He's got a green lightsaber out of nowhere. So now that this comic run of Star Wars by Charles Soule is taking place in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, we are it looks like, seeing the story of how Luke Skywalker obtains that green lightsaber.
Yeah, he has like a lightsaber that he's using, but it's broken. He's got to go about trying to fix it and then realizing this is the time that he's got to make his new one. Well, this is brand new this week. We have so many different Star Wars properties pumping out comics, creating this entire world, courtesy of Disney.
Charles Soule showing he is an expert gold baller because he went all the way back to 2008 and pulled out the planet Christophsis, which we had not seen since an animated pilot for the Clone Wars cartoon, and brought us Dr. Kuwata, who we hadn't even heard of since a Rogue One offshoot novel. Really, this is digging deep and gonna go very, very far into a super cool part of the lore that we haven't talked about before.
I wrote a comic book with one of my best friends, Fire Guy Ryan, and it's called CRASHDOWN, and it's in the previews guide, and there's like 7 pages in there soliciting our book.
Yeah, we're in here. We're in the May previews guide. FOC is June 5th to order CRASHDOWN, which you should do. It'd be a really cool way to support the first creative work that Tom and I have ever done. It's exciting.
It's a horror sci-fi with living horror legend Ben Templesmith on the art. Enjoy trailer number 2.
All right, people. We've had a change of plans. The good news is, the company was correct in their projections. We have land, we have water. Apart from weather conditions, our scanning capabilities are extremely limited. There is intense atmospheric interference on Empyrean's surface. We can't get a reading on life forms, oxygen levels, topography, anything. We're effectively blind.
That looks bad.
Luckily, that storm is still about a week out, but it will be strong enough to restrict travel down to the surface. We need to move now.
Why not just wait out the storm?
Well, Luck, that brings us to the bad news. There have been multiple malfunctions with our cryopods. Some of the pods have started waking up their occupants on their own. And soon we won't have the supplies to maintain this many conscious bodies up here. While we're under cryo, we're fed via an IV solution. We don't have nearly enough solid food ready to support everyone on this ship, if we were to wake all at once.
Well, how much time do we have?
If we don't want to all starve to death on this ship, we need to establish a foothold down there now. You 10 are some of the best in your fields. You're still going to be our first contact team. Every 48 hours, we'll send another ship full of people down to join you. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that this scenario is less than ideal. But still, it's truer now than ever. All of humanity is depending on this mission. And I know you're all the best chance that we've got. Graham, get your gear. You're joining the scout team.
Whoa, wait a second. That wasn't part of
You're all going down in a dropship first thing tomorrow. 0500 hours. We'll meet in the hangar. You're all dismissed.
We're going to move on to number 3 on the Trending 10 here. We have Fantastic Four, issue number 310. This is the first time you have Miss Marvel, Sharon Ventura, transforming into the she-thing.
$4 average sales, $150 for a CGC 9.8, an uptick in copies sold of 575%. I do not think anybody thought Mila Kunis may be tied to this film. She hinted that she knew the casting, and it has members thinking that they're going to gender swap the Thing. And I just want to remind every single person before they lose their minds, the first 3 different attempts at Fantastic Four were such utter failures, you should just be excited you're getting anything at all.
Considering the first 3 were about as popular as Meg and Family Guy, this book is gonna be one that I'm not excited for people to spec on, but it's still 575% increase in copies sold on rumors.
Yeah, the rumors were that because Mila Kunis was spotted having lunch with Matt Shakman, the director of Fantastic Four, people put 2 and 2 together and were like, oh, she's going to be in the movie, and she's going to be a female version of the Thing, which is a weird leap to make. She has since come out and said that's not the case, that's not true. However, she apparently does know who will be in the movie, although I would like to remind everybody that we can't really trust these actors when they deny that they are in or not in various superhero movies, because that's really their only option, is to deny.
Margot Robbie rumors are starting to circulate that she may make the leap from Harley Quinn to Sue Storm. Adam Driver, Kylo Ren, may take on the role as Reed Richards. These are very interesting picks, and I'm all for it. I don't care. Bring the first Marvel family to the screen. We need it.
We need it. I just don't know how I feel about those particular casting picks, but I trust MCU. I trust Kevin Feige. We'll see what they do, I guess.
I agree with Ryan on this one. Honestly, you can't bring too much star power to this. I think this is something that if you have an unknown or an undeveloped actor and kind of build them into the roles, you can keep them more long-term. It's really tough to say, Margot Robbie's not going to do a Barbie sequel or another Harley Quinn because she's tied into being Sue Storm. This is really, really tough casting news.
What do you think in the comment section below? Also, while you're down there, make sure to go to comictom101.com. All you need to do is sign up to our newsletter. That's how we're facilitating all show giveaways going forward, because scammers were trying to infiltrate our comment section and trying to source money from our viewers. So don't respond to any potential scammers in the comment section, because if there's a giveaway winning, we're going to communicate through our email list, which you can sign up for via the website. And if you do, at the end of May, someone's getting this amazing Spider-Man 41, the first appearance of the Rhino in a freaking 5.0.
So while we're already talking about Fantastic Four, number 2 on the list, Fantastic Four number 211, first appearance of Terrax the Tamer. We're seeing $60 average sales and a high CGC 9.8 for $660. That was a Heritage auction. Now, Terrax is one of the heralds of Galactus, and he's the destructive, malevolent one, which really makes sense if he's going to be the bad guy, but I still don't know if they're going to use a one-shot throwaway bad guy like this on Fantastic Four if they're planning on doing more than just a single movie.
If this happens, clearly this is a character that's going to be scouting out for planets, because he's the herald that enjoys seeking the planets for Galactus to consume. So this is going to probably lead ties to Galactus more than spec on this character. The movie would have to be like endgame excellent to propel a no-name villain to like strong selling hype in order for this book to take off much more than it has been. The heights it reached was $1,620 back in 2021. It's down upwards of $1,000. If this character is in Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer and Galactus books are the ones to spec on.
We got rumors that we're going to see Terrax in the Fantastic Four movie, and I think that's a better play than just jumping in straight and starting with Doctor Doom or with Galactus right out the gate. I think you need to start with somebody a little smaller tier, like Terrax here, or maybe even like Mole Man, like in the first Fantastic Four issue, because you can't start with Galactus or Doctor Doom and then downgrade to somebody significantly lamer like Terrax. So I think that could work. We are seeing a 471% increase in copies sold week over week, and I think this could be a cool character. He's got a good mix of low stakes. He's not super popular in the comics, but he is extremely powerful. He has a lot of earth stone manipulation powers, so he is a very, very powerful threat.
Galactus is a being that they need to utilize similar to how they rolled out slow burned Thanos for years. So let's see the direction that they take us, because we're going to find out very soon. Hit the like, slap the subscribe button, and the #1 most popular book in the world is not only trending, it's up week over week, back on the list, and I don't think you should buy it. And I seldomly say that for the hottest book in the world.
Number 1 on the list, Sweet Tooth, number 1 on the surprise release of season number 2. This book went insane, a 540% increase in copies sold this week. We were seeing $120 average sales for raw copies. There was a bids, an auction that went all the way up to $443. People weren't even paying attention to the fact that even 9 days before that, there were buy it nows for as little as $173. This is one of those books that, yeah, it's out there, but realistically, Sweet Tooth does not have the longevity or the staying power, especially if they're only doing a 3rd season and it's gonna be done.
This book hit heights of upwards of $1,000 just a couple years ago, seeing it sell for $250, so close to when it was selling for under $150 just weeks ago, tells me that some members are getting that FOMO bug, and I think they need to repel it just for a little bit, because what you're specking on is that it's going to get the Last of Us treatment, that it's going to get the Walking Dead treatment as it pertains to value. Walking Dead creeped down. Season 2 began midway through season 2, shot up and never went back down. I don't see this happening with Sweet Tooth. It's a great show, an even more excellent book. Jeff Lemire is amazing. However, season 3 is going to bring it to an end. The longevity combined with the Netflix release has me out.
So they released the whole season 2 at once, so there's no slow burn on this. We're not waiting week after week to see, do they introduce a new character that happens in book number 4? No, you got all the episodes, and that's kind of it, and we're gonna wait for another little bump when season 3 comes out.
I think that's partly why we saw this book on the list 2 weeks ago when the season dropped all at once on Netflix, and then it was not on the list last week. If it was week over week, there would be hype, there would be spec, there would be people buying this book. We don't have any of that now, except it took the announcement from Netflix of season 3 to bring it back here all the way to number 1, which is no small feat. but still, I doubt we'll see this again.
The show's already come out. We haven't talked about it in a couple weeks because the hype has completely died out. An increase of 540% off of news that we are going to get a third season and that it's going to be the final season tells me that it's because of the absence of the slow burn that it's all come to a head and people are aggressively speculating and feeling that FOMO bug. I'm feeling a strong hold off, and I want to know your thoughts in the comment section below, because if it starts trending again, you know we'll be back at the table to talk about it. As always,
Geek responsibly.
Enough
said.